If somebody had told me the camera was going to be that big, I probably would have put some makeup on first, so it's going to be like a little flip. So excuse me for carrying a big clipboard around. I've got loads of numbers to tell you, and I can't remember them for toffee, so I've got them all written on here. So first of all, just to continue kind of introducing myself and give you some idea of why I'm even worth listening to. Hopefully I am. I have been in marketing for a while, for about 12 years, even though I look about 16. Agree with me there. I have been working across consumer and B2B for a while. I've worked with the third sector quite a lot as well. I've worked in PR, I've worked in branding, I've worked in email consultancy. And what I do now is, essentially, I'm a marketing director, and I go into businesses, so I go into various businesses, mainly recruitment companies at the moment, and that's our relationship with TPP. And I'll go in and give them advice about how to maximize the return on their marketing and what kind of marketing they should use, especially when it comes to things like making a profit out of your marketing rather than sitting there making your company look really nice. I have worked with charities, quite a few of them. I used to be vice chairman of a charity which is called Children with AIDS Charity. I'm not sure if anyone's actually heard of it. That was a little while ago, I think about 3 or 4 years ago, and I kind of learned a hell of a lot about charities and the way they work at the time, and also little things like how difficult it can be to make the operational side of a charity and kind of the Board of Trustees add up and do the same kind of thing. I mean, it nearly killed me, I think, at the time. And from that, I've also regularly volunteered at charities organising events. So I know a fair amount about how charities organise. And I also run something called Third Sector Surgery, which is a little kind of advice clinic for smaller charities who can't afford to pay for advice. So what I do is I hook them up with people who deal with things like accountancy for big firms and marketing, and they kind of have some free advice. So that's my charity background. To move on to why we're actually here today, when I looked at the list of attendees that were coming here today, there's such an enormous variety of you. I've got marketing execs from really big charities. I've got the head of marketing from medium-sized charities. There's a massive amount of you, and I don't think I can address absolutely everyone's needs. So I am going to be a little bit generic at times, and forgive me if it sounds a little bit too redundant. I'm just trying to make sure that I've got everyone in the room covered. And if I do start talking jargon, please just put your hand up and say you're talking rubbish, and I'll explain what I mean. I've got 45 minutes or so with you all together. So I don't plan to stand here and try and give you solutions. I'm not going to give you one solution to your problems or to marketing in a recession. I'm here to give you a different perspective because I am actually from, completely outside of your world in many ways. And what I've done is I've done a fair amount of research before coming to meet you all, and had a look into some of the things that you guys do as well. And give you a few ideas as well about how you can use certain things like social networking, and some really basic marketing principles and what you really need to kind of remember when you're marketing, in my opinion. Right. Great. Someone might need to remind me where I put this. I'm great at losing things. So right now, I think we're seeing more and more in the news about green shoots of recovery. I'm hearing a lot of people say things about double-dip recessions, but mainly people are saying, look, we're out of recession, we're suddenly leaving, which is just lovely, but we all know that charities right now are under more pressure financially than they ever have been. I don't really need to point out the massive drop in income, because I think everyone's feeling it. But at the same time, what's happened is, for most charities, the demand for charity services has been increased by the credit crunch, which, that goes across the board. So it goes from people who are having to give advice about debt voluntarily, or I don't know, more and more puppies being thrown out because people can't really afford them. So there's a lot more kind of education to happen before we really can pull the third sector out of recession at all. Recently, the Charity Commission reported that charities are coping mainly by cutting costs, increasing fundraising efforts, drawing on reserves, which is never nice, and also reducing headcount. Now, I think we all know, just like the commercial sector actually, one of the first things that always gets cut is going to be your marketing budget. So what we're saying here is that charities are currently cutting marketing costs, but what they're doing at the same time is they're trying to increase the amount of fundraising activity in order to make sure that they're still earning money. Now, as a marketer, I find this is frustrating as hell, and I'm guessing that you guys do too. So I mean, I guess welcome to recession marketing. This is what you have to deal with every day. I'm thinking that I can probably help you convince people in your organisation that you do need to market. So I have got some statistics about marketing and about marketing in a recession. I think it's really common in the private sector to squeeze your marketing budget the second you see any kind of economic downturn or lack of profit coming in. It's something that CEOs just love doing, especially ones that don't really understand marketing. What they tend to do instead is focus on short-term sales uplifts and discounting and making profits through promotions. It's all about getting cash in, and it's all about making sure that you hit profit targets. Now, from trying to work out whether or not you should stop marketing, and when you're talking to your chief exec, for example, about whether you should stop marketing, recent research in America found that the most common reason that people were giving who support charities but decided, I'm no longer going to support a charity, the main reason is not actually down to, oh, I can't afford it anymore. It's actually down to the fact that people don't feel connected to an organisation anymore. It's people who are saying, look, I've given these guys money for charity for ages, but I've never heard a peep out of them. I've sponsored a horse, it's never written me one letter, it's all that kind of stuff. So what you've got is a lot of people across the world who give money to charity who aren't really feeling rewarded enough to give any more money to charity. So actually, it's not all down to the recession. Nearly half of the charitable giving in this country currently actually comes from larger donations. So we're talking bigger donations than £100 pretty much from individuals. It's really vital that you keep communicating with these donors, because if I'm saying that most of them are leaving not because of the financial crisis that we're having, but actually because they think that you don't really give a stuff about them anymore, it kind of highlights how important it is to communicate with these people. Generally, I think, I don't need to state this to anybody here, but we found through research that anyone who cuts out marketing just because they foresee a bit of a credit crunch, are just causing problems for the future. You need to focus on the long term. Any business needs to focus on the long term. A business generally should start to look at cutting out some of the niceties, like the flowers in the office. We all know that, but you have to kind of try and convince everybody in your organisation, not just the CEO, to get behind marketing. See, I nearly lost this already. I wasn't wrong about that. I'm going to leave it here. Right, so my strategy generally, having been through a couple of recessions, has been pretty much to just find out what works first and then just use it better and make it a lot better. Now, finding out what works, a lot of the time we all think we kind of know what works, and I think the other half of us has no idea what really works, and we're desperately trying all the time to find new ways to measure our marketing and to prove return on investment. So one of the things that I turn to first as somebody who's got a really digital focus is analytics from the web. So not necessarily just your own website analytics, but also social media analytics and even email analytics as well. And when I say use analytics, I know that everyone uses analytics. We all get Google reports. We all log into Google and whatever else, Omniture, whatever you use. And we look at lovely graphs and all these statistics. When I'm talking about using, I'm talking about looking at things like your bounce rates. Why do people bounce off of certain web pages more than others? You should be addressing that constantly. It's one of the first things that you can get free of charge. You don't really have to do anything other than log in and have the right focus. A lot of the time people are doing things like bouncing off a page that's really important to you because there's not enough information there or because there's not a strong enough call to action. You should be looking at things like search keywords. Have you got the right kind of keywords in there? Well, your analytics will probably tell you. What are other popular things that happen on your site? Which are the most popular pages? If you've got some pages that do extremely well, put something on there that helps you to convert and achieve your goals. So that's what I mean by use website analytics, not just paying lip service to them. Using search engine data to analyze trends. Now by this I don't mean just log into your analytics. I mean actually go out and use a search engine to find out what people have been searching for around the world and locally. It's really easy to do. What you need to do is go in and type into Google keyword generator. I think a lot of you probably, does anyone know of keyword generators and Google AdWords? So a lot of you do know it. Keyword generators, what they do is they look at all of the data that Google has from people's searches over the last month or so, and they tell you what people have been searching for. So you might think that, for example, people are looking for things like dog charities or animal charities. But you can never really be sure. You can look at your own website analytics, but actually that's skewed by how well optimized your site is. So what you need to do to really find out what people are looking for and what you should be targeting is going and using Google Analytics and the keyword generator. Because what it tells you is how many people were searching for what. So you might find that nobody looks for dog charities, but thousands of people look for animal charities. What does it tell you? Maybe you should change some of the words on your website. Maybe you should change some of the places that you get links from. Tracking your campaigns, again, this is probably a really obvious basic thing, but tracking your campaigns isn't just about adding complex coding to emails. It's about tracking every single campaign. The old school ways to do that is just to use different phone numbers, use different hyperlinks, use different Twitter addresses sometimes. So it's just about trying to work out what's the most effective way to do things and just maximizing on that every time and cutting out the rubbish, basically. Another thing is talk to your audience. Ask them what works. You've got captive databases of people who, I don't know, you might have direct debit set up, you might have people who engage with you regularly. Just talk to them. Give them a shout, send them an email, phone some of them up. You know, set up a project where you phone 100 customers, or somebody does, and ask them the questions. It's quite important to ask these people what really works for them, because then you can actually start to refine those campaigns. And another thing I want to talk about, and I think is really quite an important thing when it comes to what works, there's a bit of a culture in the UK. We're very polite about money. We feel it's a bit vulgar to talk about donating money. You know, so I certainly don't want to go around and say, hey, I've just donated £100, look at me, because I look like a complete arse, basically. I don't want to do that. So in the UK, it's more prevalent than in other places, just the culture. I think it's kind of up to you guys to start to shift that culture around a little bit. It can happen, especially through tools like social networks, getting advocates who start to talk about the money that they've donated. It doesn't have to be a crass thing. I think that the world of online giving has actually shown this. Online giving works. One of the reasons that it works is because it gets shared virally. If you have a Just Giving page, it kind of tells people all the way down who's donated. Now, you have the choice to be anonymous, sure, but when you join a cause through Facebook, one of the things that it does is it tells everyone else what you're doing. So actually encouraging people and celebrating their success is a fantastic thing to do. It might just be a case of, one idea is you dedicate a page of your website per month to a donor, just to say that they've donated, and you can give them a little questionnaire about why you attracted to this charity. You know, have you heard from this horse? Has he written you any letters? Can you share them? That kind of thing. So there's lots of different things that you can do to celebrate that success, but I think it really is up to you. Important thing to do is don't force people to disclose that they've donated to you. Encourage them. Give them a choice. Good. So I'm not really going to try and give you a list of priority and a list of examples and case studies of what you should be spending on. I was originally actually going to go through quite a lot of case studies, but realised what a variety of people there are here. And also that I didn't want to get too in-depth with some of the things that I'd learned, because I've done a lot of research, and it might be taken too literally by some people. So what I wanted to do is be a tiny bit more abstract. So the first thing I want to talk about is engagement. Now, I'm going to be saying this over and over and over again today, so get used to that. But I think you already are used to it, because you're all marketers, and we all strive to create engagement and to make sure that all of our donors, all of our customers, all of our partners, patrons, everybody is engaged with the brand, because without that, we're really not going to make any money out of marketing. So I am going to bang on about that quite a lot. Right. So the next thing I would go into is I also am going to talk about moving to the web quite a lot. Now, I know it's a really obvious thing. Everyone says, look, go to the web because it's free. The web isn't free. That's absolute rubbish. Sometimes to go on the web, you have to spend lots of money on content. You have to get consultants in. There's the hidden costs of having a team of 6 people spending 3 months in your team setting up a website. Well, actually, that costs all the money that you've paid in their salary, to heat them up and to make sure they've got a chair and stuff like that. So moving to the web isn't free, but certainly you can do things like cut out the costs of, of direct marketing. You can make advertising cheaper, even things like press release distribution. You can start to make them a lot cheaper by using web tools. And believe me, there's a lot of different web tools out there that are free. Now, What I found by doing the research, and I have actually quite enjoyed doing the research for this presentation, I found out so much that I couldn't possibly cram it into 45 minutes. So I've put it all in a document, and you'll be getting that when I've tidied it up a little bit and put the right fonts in. You'll be getting that from TPP. So it will have a load of hyperlinks and lists of tools that I'm talking about today. So don't worry too much about noting them down. You'll get them soon in the email. One of the other things, who does TV advertising in here? Are there many people who do it? Wow, I'm not going to talk about it too much then. One of the things that we're finding is more and more TV budgets, TV advertising budgets, are switching to the web already. It's a case of people switching tubes from the tube to YouTube, as Alan Partridge, as that sounded. People are starting to kind of make their donors and their patrons the stars of their TV advertising. It is a heck of a lot cheaper. You just have to get the right kind of creative in to do that. And it takes a lot of planning. The last part, which I have already started talking about, is, I've used a fancy term up there, digital ethnography. What I'm talking about is the market research that you do. Do not stop doing market research. One of the things that marketers throw out straight away is market research. We don't need to do market research. We've been doing this for 25 years. Why the heck would we need to do market research? The answer to that, as you all know, is because things change constantly. Focus groups are expensive. You don't necessarily have to do them. Research is one of those things that doesn't need to go out of the window. One of the things that you can do is start looking to the internet for more insight. I don't mean sitting there Googling things and looking up statistics and finding white papers and reading them constantly. You can find out a hell of a lot about the thoughts, the needs, the desires of all of your target audience through the web, through social networks, through search engines. They're pretty amazing marketing tools. There's something else that's worth taking note of called Google Trends, which does show you exactly how many people were looking for certain trends at certain times. So it does tell you historically, maybe that in September people will look for one thing more than the other because of some event. It might tell you whether or not your assumption that people want to give more at Christmas is true, because there'll be historical data that's, it's hard data that people have gone out and they've actually typed into Google. It's one of the most kind of private ways of collecting data, because if you think about it, there's not somebody there who's going to ask you a question, bother you, embarrass you. You're actually just subliminally just spilling it straight out your mind into Google. Google is very kindly giving it to you. So it's another one to look up. One of the most obvious things, again, I've already said this, is ask questions. You can use the web to do things like, you can find out more about your demographics via email surveys. Just send them out via, you can use Survey Shack. There's a load of different free tools that you can use. Some of you probably will have a look at your content management system and find out that it's got poll software in there somewhere. You can use things like LinkedIn as well. Also, if you really, really want to do it on the free, Google Documents, completely free, has a fantastic survey function which is worth using. You can just email a link out to a very customized web page which has a poll function where you get all the results in the spreadsheet, and it's just gorgeous. So have a look at that as well. I would say, and I'd stress, it's not about just abandoning traditional field research tools. It's just about thinking carefully about how you can use digital to target behavior, because that's kind of what you're trying to take advantage of. So, going back to should we stop marketing, I think we're all going to agree, don't cut back marketing. Excuse me. When it comes to cutting costs, it's not just you guys, it's not just the commercial sector. Consumers have all had to sit around and cut costs. We've all had to say, look, I'm not going to spend on whatever, this car this year. I'm not going to go on holiday, I'm going to go to Pontins or some other kind of hell instead. So what we're looking at is we're in the same kind of in the same situation as most of our donors as well. Right now they're making difficult decisions, and one of the first kind of discretionary spends, a bit like marketing actually, is going to be donations to charity. I've got to make sure that I have money to buy, I don't know, a suit so I can go to work. Why am I going to spend lots of money on charity right now? I'll do it when things pick up again. It's a bit like marketing, that must be a little bit familiar. So a lot of people are thinking it's a recession, I'm short of money. Donating charity is a luxury, much like my Molton Brown air freshener. So I'll cut them both out. So what I would say is it's a case of, for you, planning your way out of recession. I think that just because you've had cuts in your marketing budget, or your marketing budget's been pretty much thrown out, it doesn't mean that you have to throw your entire marketing plan out. Get hold of your marketing plan, adjust it, trim it down, a bit like your budget's been trimmed down, and really make sure that you look at it regularly, because one of the mistakes that people make, both the commercial sector and the third sector, is that when there's a recession and a budget gets cut hugely, they say, right, well, that's the marketing plan out the window. Let's start to make it up as we go along. Don't do it. You've put a lot of time into your marketing plan generally. If you haven't, start doing that. But you've put a lot of time in. Don't waste it. Just adapt it. Over the last 6 recessions, economists have studied hard, and they've learned that companies that keep marketing through a slump actually gain market share. I don't know if anyone kind of already has this kind of opinion that they do. You should have, because it will mean that you probably will keep your job. Hopefully, might help. So people are actually gaining market share when they are marketing through a recession, especially when they're coming out of a recession. They're actually finding that more companies that are spending money on marketing and keeping up active marketing, not only do they have more engaged customers at the end of the recession, they actually start to make profits as well. Research has shown that the higher your share of voice during a recession, the more likely you are to actually grow your share of the market when the recession's over. And don't forget, there's another really obvious thing which comes from the commercial sector. While your competitors are deciding, oh my God, I'd better stop marketing, well, you've actually got a bit of an opportunity to start to gain market share. Especially if you're a smaller charity, you just have to be a bit more careful about how you do it. So, an issue you may not have been thinking that you needed to hear, or that you were going to hear about today, is trust. Trust is a really, really big part, I found out, of why people give you money. If you thought that people could be apathetic about giving charity money before, you've got a whole new challenge around the corner. I think after all the corporate scandals and the kind of bonus spending, expense fiddling, all the other bad stuff that's happened, consumers getting very, very suspicious about where they spend their money and where they invest their money. It's quite hard for them to kind of just hand over money to random things like charity muggers who come up to me in the street with a clipboard like this. So, unfortunately, it really does affect your organisations too. Now, one of the things that we're talking about here is just being honest, just being open. It's not really enough to just say, look, we are honest and open. We publish an annual report every year that says exactly where we put all of our money. And so what you've actually got to do is start to communicate more regularly in a language that people actually understand. I certainly don't read annual reports of Plan International, who I sponsor a child through, because I've got, I need to do other things with my time pretty much. When it comes to Facebook updates, yeah, I read them all the time. And if it comes to the fact that you've just spent X amount of money, tell people about it, celebrate it. So it's about being a little bit more honest about what you actually do. A company called Ledbury Research conducted a survey recently about the barriers that stop people giving money. Found that 2/3 of people think that charities are completely inefficient. And this actually corroborates the need for being a bit more open. A lot of people aren't actually donating because they're not convinced at all that their money is going to go to a really good cause. I mean, you just have to look at the apathy around Pakistan at the moment and how many news stories there are saying, look, is your money really getting to the right place? And just read some of the blogs about it. Survey also actually found that 82% believe that charities will actually be forced to become more efficient as people demand this from them. So it's a case of getting ready for it now while you're in this kind of downtime. It will really help with your branding. So I'm going back to engagement here, as I promised to do so. Getting to people's hearts. I mean, it's not the same as selling soap. You're really trying to get into people's hearts, and the only way you can really do that is you have to appeal to them by engaging them, pulling on the emotional strings, and making them actually respect, trust you, want to actually come back to you time and time again. Set up a direct debit, that's quite a big ask for something that's completely intangible. So one of the things that I found out, and again, I'll give you some statistics in the handout that I'll send around to you, the mail out rather than handout. One of the things I found out is that 3 out of 4 donors actually think that charities need to actively change the way they communicate. There was a survey done where donors were basically shown a bunch of communications channels, and they were asked, which of these do you think you need to hear more, and which do you already have that aren't very useful? And what came out of it is everybody pretty much wanted to hear more by email, and the other thing is more by social networking. So I'm always surprised by the amount of people who are in the third sector, marketing managers as well, who are absolutely terrified of email marketing because they think it will be spammy or they think they'll be fined thousands of pounds. It's a bit old-fashioned to dismiss email marketing nowadays. It's cheaper, it's more effective, it works. Look into it. I think the medium that you use is becoming increasingly important. So, you know, email is obviously more environmentally friendly as well, and that's an obvious benefit. But there's also, in the quest for kind of being a bit more creative with marketing, you've got marketing managers and creative directors who are increasingly looking towards fancy direct mail campaigns. Now, if I'm sent, excuse me, on my mailbox, if I'm sent a lovely piece of paper that suggests that you've got money to burn, it's probably going to make me think twice about actually giving you some more money so that you can send me more fancy chocolate bars that have got my name written on, etc., etc. That's actually something serious I have seen. So if you're going to actually spend on direct mail, which, you know, it still works as well, don't go just junking direct mail because some guy stood up and said, look, email marketing is better than direct mail. Don't spend your money on the physical materials so much. Look carefully at creative execution, strategic planning. One of the biggest things is going to be your data. A lot of people start off with, I want a fancy HTML email, which has got some lovely words and a picture of a donkey again. Keep going back to donkeys and dogs today. But so what we've got going on is people who say, look, I want a fancy HTML with a lovely design and some good copy. And then the last thing they think about is data. Oh, who are we going to send it to? Should we buy a list or what? So look at the existing data you have, look at the existing database, and what you need to do to really engage with people is to start to, first of all, clean it up, get rid of the duplicates, all the usual stuff. Spend a bit of time and money on getting this process right. Secondly, run marketing campaigns that actually aim towards getting more data. What we call it in the commercial sector is lead nurturing. What you're doing is you're taking somebody who's a lead, a potential donor or an existing donor, you're finding more and more out about them every time. So you're looking to find out things like how old they are. You're looking to find out things like when their birthday is. I don't know, other things like how much they earn. It is quite important, and I'll come back to why soon. So looking at marketing and recovering from a recession, and this is one of the ideas that I wanted to give you. It's a suggestion that I'd really like to discuss with you. I'm not going to have time to at the moment, but hopefully afterwards I'll get to have a few words with a few people. Last year the government announced that they gave around £40 million to support the charity sector in order to get through the recession. Now, I think that's lovely. You know, £40 million is a fair amount of money. But I found out something else the other day, that actually that would be a much nicer amount of money to get back from the government. £750 million. Apparently, according to a survey that was released earlier this week, or last week actually, I think. I was sunbathing last week, so I'm not sure. But it's a think tank called Respublica, which teamed up, I think, with the CAF. And they found and reported that £750 million a year is how much charities are missing out on through not claiming gift aid. That's how much gift aid is just sitting around. That's a hell of a lot of money. Now, there's a bit of a debate about how much of this is lost through bureaucracy and how hard it is to actually add gift aid to a donation. But this is a great marketing opportunity because you've got a creative idea sitting there and you've also got a business need. You need to start claiming back some of that £750 million. It's a lot more than that £40 million the government wants to give you. So it's about, you know, you've got the opportunity to go out and educate people, give them better opportunities to actually gift aid their donations, you know. Make sure that on your website you've got clear signposts and calls to action for gift aid. You have to educate these people as well. You have to educate your donors because a lot of people don't have any idea what gift aid is and they don't have any idea how you'll benefit from it. Give them tangible benefits. Saying, well, you get your tax back isn't massively a tangible benefit. Saying that if you just click this button, I can feed 25 more donkeys tomorrow, that's a tangible benefit that they actually can understand. I would also suggest keeping up to date with the news on gift aid. Things are changing quite a lot. It's going to become easier soon. It's going to become a lot smoother to integrate things into your online giving, for example. So do keep up to date with that. So is there anyone here that has a marketer sitting on the board of trustees, so at director level? Can you stick your hand up if you do? That's the normal reaction I get from when I ask that question. So What happens a lot of the time is you really struggle as a marketer in your organization because, unlike me, and I'm very lucky for this, you don't have a CMO who will sit there at the board and say, yeah, that guy's right. Yes, I learned that at university, or I've learned that through experience of 25 years working in big organizations where I've marketed through recessions. You don't generally have that so much. So it's a bit difficult if you don't have a marketing champion on the board of trustees or the board of directors. Now, what happens in a commercial organisation is these people are slotted together very carefully. We use executive search agencies or whatever else to go and find the right people to control the finance, the operations, the marketing, the information infrastructure, things like that. In charities, they're often just thrown together by a common belief in a common cause. I mean, I think you guys have all seen that a lot of the time. You've got people who are very well-meaning, they sit together, but the expertise doesn't actually necessarily cross the board, and that's why you don't necessarily have a marketing officer or a chief marketing officer type person. I, especially from my own personal experience, because I've gone into companies and I've been that person, and a lot of people have actually said, wow, that's actually changed our focus on the way we do things a lot. It's not just about going in there and controlling the marketing. It's about making some, first of all, championing your cause. Secondly, making some great introductions, helping to approve marketing budgets, helping to actually create marketing budgets, and justify to the rest of the board, when you guys aren't necessarily going to be in the meeting, justifying why the marketing budget was actually worth it that year and why it's worth it for the long term. So what I would say is if you don't have this person on board, I'd try and go out and find somebody. Go and talk to your board about the fact that it is worth having this person. Excuse me. So this also does apply to a point for volunteers. There are loads of talented potential volunteers out there who've been turned off the idea of volunteering completely by, I don't know, the thought of envelope stuffing. I'm a marketing director. I'd quite like to volunteer. Yes, I would like to take kids out for a day of abseiling, but if I'm going to come and do an hour or two's volunteering in London after work, I don't really want to be stuffing envelopes. It doesn't make any sense. What I'd like to be doing is giving you some marketing advice, maybe helping you sort out your marketing plan. It's a fundamental and obvious idea, but believe me, it's something that people get wrong a lot of the time. You see some very valuable people who are turned off completely. Look at things like Media Trust, look at things like Time Bank. You will start to find more and more people going on there who are actually trying to find a match and trying to find places to go and to volunteer. The last place I would talk about getting involved as a marketing... See, this is rubbish. Lucky I've got a mirror there. So the last person I would talk about, or the last stakeholder I would talk about that we need to get involved with as a marketing resource are marketing agencies. Now, marketing agencies can be really expensive and they can be really, really difficult to control sometimes, but I think most people know as well, they can be an absolute godsend, reduce your workload, make you lots of money, and just make you look really good as a company. There's a lot of companies out there, marketing agencies, certainly mine, and I know that TPP has a policy of making sure that all its staff volunteer regularly in order to keep in tune with the third sector and to support their CSR objectives. So, I mean, a lot of agencies are out to improve their image through CSR. A lot of them are out to actually get some decent stuff on their portfolio as well. And there are a lot of agencies that are actively looking to do pro bono work for people. If you want to find one of these agencies, what's worth doing is putting together some kind of pro bono tender and making very clear just what it is that you could do with support on. So it might be PR, but don't just say, hey, I need some support on PR. You need to actually be quite clear. Otherwise, you might end up in a relationship that doesn't necessarily work and doesn't bring mutual benefit. If you hire an agency and you do end up on a pro bono relationship, just like if you're paying them, make sure you give them a full and strict brief. Don't waste their time. Hopefully they won't waste your time. Agree deliverables, make sure you've got the right resources to kind of, you know, liaise with them in-house and give them knowledge. Set milestones, timescales, and make sure that you are both getting something out of it, because you have to look after them a little bit as well if they're working for free. Be prepared for these guys to not necessarily treat you as their main client. You know, it's obvious, but you just have to remember that when you're going into it. So I'm going to skip over this a little, but just want to point out the obvious again. Now, everyone knows how powerful word of mouth is, and we're all striving for it, but is there anyone actually really using it? one of the things about referrals, you know, we're talking about Just Giving, we're talking about social networks, but the best way to get a referral is for me to sit there and say, hey, I just got a letter the other day from a Chinese boy that I sponsor for Plan International. I only pay like £12 a month, but he sends me letters. It's wonderfully rewarding, and I'm sending one back tomorrow. That's suddenly a story that I've told a friend who's gone, I'm going to have a look at that. And do you know what? I might just be really busy sitting around at work and not really remember things like that. But completely ignore opportunities to tell people about it. If you want referrals, you should ask. If you read any small business planning book, what it says, if you want referral sales, you have to go out and ask them. If you're shy about asking, you're likely not to get them. If you ask, you're likely to start to get massive referrals. How are you going to ask? Email campaigns, direct mail campaigns, all your usual marketing tools. Make sure that you give people ways to actually refer. It's all very well saying, look, can you go out and refer us? Chances are, yeah, I can, of course I will. I'll just wait for the next opportunity. Or you give them something more tangible, like a landing page that they can link to, and they can refer you by email or by social network or just verbally. Say, go and Google, you know, this charity's giving to whoever. Social networks. Now, I know social networks is a really obvious one, so I'm not going to bang on about how to kind of share and how to refer people via social networks, other than there are lots and lots of different ways to do it. And one of my favourite ways is to go out and find advocates. Go out and find people on social media who have got, and it takes a bit of research, who they might be famous, they might be your patrons, they might be people who you deal with day in, day out, who are like your agencies or your trustees or relatives of your trustees. Go out and find influential people who can share your information and ask them to do it again. Use Facebook pages and make sure that they're updated regularly, and you know, talk to them about getting referrals, talk to your friends. Use things like Twitter to do much the same, tweet about referrals. Say, hey, retweet this and we'll give you some kind of reward, or just retweet a link to a web page. And just keep repeating. Don't just do it once and think it will work. Social networks, well, you've all got Facebook, I'm guessing, and Twitter. You see an update and it disappears within 25 seconds because everyone else is updating. Keep repeating your message. Keep asking for referrals. PR. Now, PR, in my experience, is really expensive, but then you look at the value you get out of it. It's still a really, really powerful medium of marketing. So I just urge you to keep your focus on PR. Spend money on it, but one of the best things that you can do at the moment is content-based PR, because content that you make from PR, once you stick it onto the web, it starts to pull people in. You can start to distribute your content for free via article directories and press release wires. You can use any PR content, you can kind of distill it, and you can put it on LinkedIn. You can give it to every single organization of your company, every single employee of your company, and say, look, can you stick this bit of PR copy on the bottom of your email? So you really can recycle and reuse PR content. I guess that's kind of the alternative take I wanted to give you about PR. Now, so I just need to quickly look at my watch. So one of my ideas is to explore new markets. Why do I say that? Because that's one of the first things in the commercial sector that we have to do. We have to go out and find out, where could we actually make a bit more money? Is there something we're not tapping into? You're in the same position. Here's something that was a bit of a revelation to me. There's a myth that old people can't be targeted online. It's absolute rubbish, apparently. I found some research that shows that older donors are using the internet for giving just as much as younger people. There's research that shows, and it is general knowledge apparently, which I don't know if you guys know more than I do, but over 64s are 4 times more likely generally to donate £50 than an 18 to 24-year-old. So there's an obvious opportunity here. There's older people on the web, and they're more likely to donate more. What do? Make it easier for them to give. It's not a massive ask. It means that you have to make sure that your website and your web pages are easy to navigate. Think about the fact that old people sometimes have bad vision. Make sure that your websites are accessible. Make sure that the words make sense to them as well. Don't bombard them with things about how you can go to Facebook and log in to your iPhone app, because consider the fact that a lot of these guys don't have them. It's a lucrative market, which I guess I've talked about why. The important thing is now, how on earth do I get to these older people? I don't have an answer for you right now, except for invest some time in going to social networks. Definitely, you will find older people on social networks. What are they? Well, it's up to you to find out, and it's up to your individual organisation to find out which kind of networks and things people use. Don't forget, there are also other people that influence what kind of websites they're on, such as me. I've got older parents who have just come onto the internet, and I kind of tell them where to go looking for certain information. So do your research carefully. Also, as I've said time and time again, if you want to target older people, have a look at your database. Hopefully they've got some ages in, some dates of birth. Go and ask them. If you're over 64, where do you go on the internet, and where are you most likely to give? Another idea. Now, I know this, again, seems alarmingly obvious, but 35% of the wealthy are more passionate in supporting charitable causes than Downturn is something I found out. Now, I got hold of some research from Barclays, where what they did is they asked all their wealthier customers, they do have their own department, believe it or not, they asked all their wealthy customers, what do you think is the most reason for giving? Now, what do you think it is? If I was asking wealthy people, why do you give? Surprisingly for me, it was, I can afford to. And that was it. I thought it was going to be something a bit more philanthropic. I thought it was going to be something a bit more like, well, because I just want to give back to the community because I've made it or whatever. Nope. The answer is because I can afford to. And you don't really have to be Robin Hood to take advantage of the rich people opportunity there. So 42% of the people that we talked to, or sorry, that Barclays talked to, actually said that they give to the same causes every year. This is pretty much without question. What they do is they set up direct debits to the same few causes, and it just goes out automatically. A lot of these people are individually making £1,000 and more donations, and you guys are currently in the city. There are people who have net worths of absolute millions here who are making lots of money. Now, one thing about people saying, look, I can afford to make a donation, so I just do, being able to afford to is relative. There are lots of millionaires who also said to Barclays, I used to be able to afford to, but I am only worth about £3 million now, so I can't really afford to give to charity anymore, so I stopped my charity donations. So a bit of education, a bit of engagement can help to make people realise, actually, you can afford to give. More and more people, Barclays found as well, and I'll send you this actual report, more and more people are actually, who are really wealthy, are saying, look, I decided that I wanted to cut down my marketing spend and put a bit more time in. Now, one of the things that they could do with their time is go and refer you to other wealthy people because they know a lot. So you need a bit of lateral thinking when you're working out how to reach these people. Now, another really, really positive fact is that the amount of people who were planning to reduce donations over the last year. Barclays found that 23% of these wealthy customers were going to reduce their donations over the year. That's only 23%. Actually, around half of them, I think 49%, were looking to just keep them exactly as they are. So they're just going to keep them exactly as normal. But 26%, which is kind of the opposite of what we're seeing from credit crunch figures, are actually planning to increase their donations. So these wealthy people are sitting there waiting for you to come and say, look, yeah, I'll take that money, that's cool. Increase it my way. So one other point which actually bored me a little bit when I started reading it because it was all about tax, apparently 50% of higher tax rate payers are completely unaware of the tax relief that they can have. Over half of them that were asked said that they'd give this tax back to the charity because actually it doesn't really matter to them because they would never have noticed it. So there's a lot of opportunities there. I'm going to skip one slide. So talking about efficiency, and one thing I haven't done is sit here and bang on and on about how to just make marketing cheaper. And really, I'm not going to too much. One of the most important things, stick to a program. I said this earlier, I just want to reiterate it. Don't throw a marketing plan out. Stick to a program, shave bits off, cut your own costs. Don't spend a lot on materials. Don't go and waste money on things that you don't necessarily understand, such as, I know PR costs £7,000 a month. Do I know why? No. So in order to really focus on your return, you have to start measuring. If you have a PR agency, get their reports in and really look at them and ask them to demonstrate ROI. You might want to talk, if you've got somebody who is outside, you might want to talk about bringing some of the services they provide in, the grunt work, so to speak. It might be a case of interviewing somebody internally and making sure that it's recorded so they can write some kind of PR interview up. Now, you'll probably find that if you really want to cut the cost, because you might be talking about 2 hours worth of interview time that you're paying £150 an hour for, plus the materials that they use, which is absolutely nothing. Now, in order to shave that cost, you can bring that in-house. You can just have that conversation, tape record it, hand it over to a PR agency. That's just one little example of what you could be doing. I'm sure there's others that you could all think of. But bring the right things in-house. Don't just randomly go, okay, we can bring everything in-house. If we can do the interview, why don't we just write it up? You need experts for the right things. Don't bring the wrong things in-house just because you know that you can. Be realistic with what you do with your agencies. You can cut an agency budget. An agency won't necessarily say, well, you're not spending any money again with me, so I'm off. What they're likely to do is say, well, it's okay, we're in a credit crunch. Why don't we do this work, and then when we're back to normal, you can up your fee again. And that's the way you should be working, because essentially you should be bringing the money back in. So bring the right things in-house is all about, don't bring things that you need experts for. When it comes to writing copy, for example, it's really tempting to just let your CEO do that. Your CEO might be a really awful copywriter, and you'll probably find that there will be a load of people in-house who just won't ever argue with it. You might just end up with the wrong kind of result. Outsourcing things sometimes can always be cheaper. One thing I would say is, while you're reducing agency budgets, try and speak to them about payment on results. A lot of agencies, PR agencies, email marketers, will talk to you about payment on results. So you agree an initial fee, which is discounted, sometimes no fee at all, but it depends on how harsh you want to be. And then you pay for the coverage. You pay a certain percentage per coverage. So ask your agencies to consider using this module. Last thing I want to talk about is using volunteers for marketing. Now, first thing is, when you're going to get volunteers in who do your marketing, so as I was saying, I'll come in, I'll sit and spend an hour with you talking about whatever. Or I might be a bit more junior, and I might just want to talk to you about social media and run your Twitter account for you by spending an hour on it a month. Make sure that you can support them. If you're just going to bring a marketing person in who's a volunteer and never talk to them, they're a liability. They'll probably get quite frustrated and probably end up doing nothing. Inertia really kills that kind of relationship, and a lot of people do bring in interns. They bring in, a lot of people are talking about twin turns in the commercial sector, which is, I don't have time to run my Twitter account. I know what I'll do. I'll bring in somebody who's just come out of college and spends half their time drunk still. So they can run my Twitter account because it's free. It can be really dangerous. We've all seen stories of how, I don't know, there's famous stories from Rent-A-Kill, there's famous stories from Habitat, which, if you're interested, go and just look up Rent-A-Kill social media, and you'll find some, thank you, you'll find some hilarious stories of just how badly interns can mess things up. If your Twitter intern does mess things up, I'm sorry, but you've only got yourself to blame. So if you get somebody in, make sure you brief them, make sure you train them, make sure that you're there to support them, have regular updates with them, make sure that you make them feel like it was well worth coming to you in the first place. When you're bringing volunteers in, focus on value adds, not a bum on a seat. You know you need a marketing person. What can they really add? Can they really write, or are they just the first person that you've come across that's written to you and said, hey, I'd like to write for you? Focus on creating some kind of description of what you need, as I said earlier, like the kind of pro bono tender, and write briefs and set guidelines. This always helps people like the twin turns and the interns that I talked about actually kind of stay a bit reined in and not make dangerous mistakes on your behalf and their brand. If you've got a company style guide, adapt it a little bit. Scroll some notes on there that's relevant to somebody who's not inside your organization. Thing is, you've got a volunteer coming in, you can't really threaten them with the sack if they mess it up. So in order to prepare yourself, get in there right at the start and build a relationship. One of the most important things for these volunteers, like any volunteering I'd say, they're not getting any money from you, they're not getting a wage. Oh yeah, they're getting warm and fuzzy, but you know what? It's been found over and over again that most people don't volunteer for the warm and fuzzy. What they actually do is they volunteer for things like putting it on their CV, learning something, trying to get a portfolio together of clients who they've worked for, getting a new experience they've never had before. So they need to be rewarded, and rewards need to be quite tangible. Now, the reward might just be recognition. That's one of the best rewards you can give. And that might mean making sure that you invite them to company drinks now and again after they've kind of worked with you. It might mean, I don't know, giving them some kind of certificate. It might mean going out and making sure you recommend them on LinkedIn and actively celebrate the fact that they're with you. Lots of different ways you can do it. Expenses is an obvious one. If you're taking somebody in who's an intern or marketing volunteer, it really helps if you do say, look, we care about you enough to just pay your expenses, pay your travel, buy your lunch. It really will pay dividends just to pay, £5 or whatever it costs for that. And with that said, I think, well, I am at the end of my presentation pretty much. I hope I've given you some quite good ideas and some quite good kind of insight. And I'll follow up. I promise that I will follow up with some of the research that I've talked about, because otherwise it's quite meaningless and you just have to believe this guy who's got up in front of you and just kind of talked a lot. So thank you very much. So, do you have questions? You still laugh. I thought you had a question there. Right.
You mentioned a lot about obviously moving into the online sphere and space. Mm-hmm. Do you have any tips about managing brand aware or the brand online? Because I think that's something we're finding is increasingly more difficult, because we've got different areas of the charity doing a lot of things online and trying to get that brand consistency in an online space.
So, do I have any tips for
or any thoughts on that?
Yeah,
I've
got loads.
What do you think it is?
I've got absolutely loads. I think I could sit here and talk to you all day about that. So, when it comes to managing your brand online, I've repeated this throughout the presentation. Be really careful with coordination. A lot of people tend to separate online from the normal stuff. I hear people talking about, this is our digital spend, or this is our digital PR campaign. Actually, we're a bit advanced. 2010, I know that we haven't got the robot eyes that were promised back in 80s films, but we are now at an advanced enough stage where we should be saying, well, the two things merge now. People have online experiences that should merge with the offline experience. Therefore, your planning should merge the two. And I'm all for having one person inside an organisation in charge of two, even if you have different specialists underneath them. So your branding strategy and your marketing planner should have a mixed kind of strategy, I'd say, because both of them have knock-on effects on each other. The other thing is you have to control people who've got very, very different skills and very different kind of mindsets. And the way these people do things can be really different. I had somebody come in for a job interview. I'm recruiting 2 people today, at the moment. And I had somebody come in for a job interview for a marketing exec role where he came in suit, presented wonderfully. Another guy, I met him at reception and he said, I'm here for an interview. And I said, you don't look like you're here for an interview, because he was wearing a t-shirt. And in his world, it's perfectly acceptable to turn up to a job interview wearing a t-shirt, because he's a hardcore search engine technology coder type person. I thought he was a lunatic for doing that, but that's actually the way that the world is changing. The kind of people that I'm engaging there, the marketing executive was a traditional marketer, and he thought completely different to this guy who lives in a dark corner pretty much, but that does have to face clients and does have to make some really important decisions about your marketing. So the only way you can really get these 2 people to do the same thing, and maybe to dress the same when they're coming in for a job interview, it's a metaphor, is to actually give them some kind of strategic, high-level guidance, I would say. So that's the first thing. Second thing is you have to really know your media. So a lot of people think that online and offline media are just so completely different that you should only pay attention to one at a time. Every single marketing agency that I've worked for over the last 10 years has started to become increasingly aware of the fact that if you're going to target paper, you have to target online. If you've got a wonderful bunch of PR stories in the Sun which mention that your charity does something or other, has some really good intelligence, it's absolutely no use, because unless they can go to Google, type your charity name in, find a website they can go to and find out exactly what they want to know. So you have to really focus on blending one with the other, and that does go right back to your strategy as well. Okay? Any other questions?
Do you think any charities are doing a good job?
Interesting.
That's a bit of a generic question.
Yes, I do. I think there are a lot of charities that are doing a very good job at the moment. Now, this is going to test me because I had a load of case studies that I pulled off the web. I could name lots of names. I would say the people that are doing the best job at the moment are engaging over social networks. They are listening to their volunteers and their donors worldwide. If you look at things like Movember, for example, has everyone heard of Movember? Where you grow a moustache in order to support prostrate cancer charity. That's the kind of thing that has come about over social media, email, market research, and just listening to people. All the charities that are doing really well, such as breast cancer care, for example, what they're doing is they're tapping into what people really care about, what their donors really care about. They're taking ideas off their donors, off their patrons, and off people outside the marketing department. Movember, for example, started off as a conversation between a bunch of guys in Australia who said, we need to bring the moustache back. How on earth do we do that? They grew moustaches, and they said, we need to get everyone to grow moustaches. And it started to grow out of that, and then lots and lots of different people got involved. But it's a worldwide charity now. Movember is a worldwide phenomenon. It's a worldwide thing that happens every October. And it disgusts me that many people grow moustaches. But the point is, it's one of those things where a charity has come up with an idea based on what it's got from its volunteers and its donors as well. So I think anyone that's listening, anyone that's engaging over social media and not just using it to broadcast, is doing really well. I've heard a lot about people like the NSPC losing, I think they had something like 15% of their direct debits cancelled over the last year because of the credit crunch, pretty much, or that's what they thought. So they've had to really, really aggressively kind of go out there and, is there anyone from the NSPC here, by the way? So I should ask first. They've had to aggressively go out there and really advertise and try and get people to engage with the charity in order to kind of set these long-term things up. Remember, you're asking for a direct debit. What am I getting from it? Maybe a mailer now and again. That's if I'm lucky. I might just have nothing except for a debit from my bank account, which is actually just giving for no real reward. So the best people are the people that are creating engagement without throwing a clipboard in your face and saying, hey, have you got 2 minutes to spare? I've got some fantastic charity stuff to sell you, and that's actually quite intrusive. The best charities are focusing on what we call pull marketing, where they're generating lots of content that is really useful to people. They're developing content through their patrons. They're going out and they're finding people to champion their causes. They're bringing in, the people that are cared about by the general media as well, and they're in the general consciousness. It's not a new thing to do at all, but what you've got is you've got new channels. So now you can get somebody to tweet, you can get somebody famous to tweet about you, instead of just saying, look, can I give you a certain amount of rewards in terms of treatment or money or whatever, so that you'll go out and you'll be a champion. Now you can actually really instantly tweet somebody who's got lots and lots of followers and get them to tweet back, and they become a bit of a celebrity advocate quite quickly. One of the ways you can do that is by monitoring what people are looking at and talking about at the moment. So all the best charities that are doing well at marketing at the moment are listening. They're all monitoring. They're all looking at Twitter. There are lots of different tools you can use for this. Things like, the standard ones are Google. Google's a huge one. Twitter has search capabilities, and there's lots of applications that let you search that. There's also things that some of the large charities can buy into, like Radian 6, for example, is a really good thing that helps you manage your reputation. It's not just about managing reputations, it's about knowing who's talking about what. So if you've got somebody who is talking about growing a moustache, you can start a conversation with them about why. And how about growing a beard next year or whatever else. That's a really stupid example. Let's say bowler hats. So it's that kind of thing that I'm seeing that is being done well. And PR, PR's got to be a really, really important thing that helps people stay engaged in the long term. When a charity I'm trying not to say chugger, when a charity clipboard collecting fundraiser person comes up and says to you in the street, hey, I'm from this charity, hopefully PR's done the job of convincing you that you probably should stop, because something's happening somewhere that you should care about. You shouldn't have to just rely on this person. This person's out there, like in the commercial sector, closing a deal. So when I see a charity that I know nothing about just jumping out at me in the street and saying, have you got 2 minutes? I'll generally say no, because I know that you actually need 10 minutes to explain what the heck you do and get me to care about it, and I just don't have 10 minutes. If they say, have you got 2 minutes, and I already know that I can sponsor a child somewhere, or a donkey, sorry, not to forget them, I can sponsor a donkey, and I'll get some kind of rewards out of it already because, I don't know, because Lisa Snowden does it, well, half your job is done, and they really will only take 2 minutes of signing me up, probably. So I think they're some of the most important things I've seen. Okay?
How true do you think it is that people give to a charity that they have an affinity with, And if you haven't got wide-eyed donkeys and little children to put on posters, how much does that affect what you do from a marketing point of view?
So, just in case the microphone didn't get that, I'm going to kind of repeat the question back. So what you're asking is, how true do I think that somebody has to have an affinity with a charity in order to really engage and donate? And if you don't have wide-eyed donkeys and puppies...
It's a cause that is very obviously
right.
Identified in an image, for example, so we don't, and that's one of our biggest problems. So,
yeah. What's your charity?
Prince's Trust. So we deal with young people on the fringes of society, but a lot of people look at it as activities.
Right.
So it's a constant battle for us, and it's quite interesting that we can't put wide-eyed donkeys and small children.
I would probably sew donkey ears onto their hoods.
Shall we try that?
I think that the key here, I actually agree with you. I agree that it's really hard if you don't have something that can be your wide-eyed doggy, pretty much. It doesn't have to be a character. It's a concept. It's an idea in someone's head that has to be the wide-eyed doggy. It has to be, essentially, a wide-eyed doggy is something that you say, oh, it's so cute, I like it, and I'll pay attention to it. And it has proved, the reason I go on about donkeys is it's been proved that Donkey Sanctuary just performs outside, well beyond everyone else in brand recall and just getting donations, because it just does, because it's a Donkey Sanctuary. I used to work with Children with AIDS charity, where I would have loved to be able to put case studies on the website. I would have loved to be able to put, doe-eyed children on the front of our literature. We couldn't. We really couldn't, because it just wouldn't have worked. There were confidentiality issues. There were the issues of, actually, Children with AIDS charity no longer just helps children, it helps families. A lot of them are illegal immigrants. And, I'm not going to stick a story up which says such and such is an illegal immigrant. Please help him, because it doesn't quite work. And what they've actually got is they've got a doe-eyed, which we helped them to redesign, so it was more doe-eyed. They've got a doe-eyed kind of chick character. Chick? It's a duck, I should know that. It's a duck character, which does represent the face of it. But one of the really important things that we found is that you just have to keep telling the stories of how what they do affects the person at the end. So I agree that you do need some kind of doe-eyed idea of what I'm doing is tangible. Because if it's not tangible, then it's just a debit at my bank account. It's just a clipboard that I'm about to walk past. How do you solve that problem? I think it's different for everyone. How do you solve it with Prince's Trust? Yeah, probably the sewing hoodie, cat ears and stuff like that. Possibly. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay, hi.
I was going to ask about how important you think video content is. Do you have any advice about that?
How important do I think video content is? Absolutely massively important. I'm talking to an increasing amount of people, such as my youngest niece, who's 16. And what she does is she hangs out with people who are getting more and more lazy about reading and writing. And I'm always going on at her about her text messages. So I'm not going to reply until you've got your bloody spelling right. What she tells me about is much more alarming, which is when people are doing their homework, they're doing the modern day equivalent of what I did back in my A-levels, where I was supposed to have read Jane Eyre. Well, the film just came out, so I didn't read it. I went to the cinema, and I failed miserably. What they're doing now, a lot of young people, and it's being seen much more in the younger generation, they're Googling or they're YouTubing the subjects they want to know about. I've seen one of the real popular searches that's come up on YouTube recently is how to iron a shirt. So you've got grown-ups doing it as well. And you've got loads and loads of different companies and individuals who told you how to iron a shirt. If you look at how to do makeup, well, people used to buy makeup magazines. Now, unfortunately for makeup magazines, unfortunately for the beauty pages, you've got lots and lots of people who just quite happily sit there and say, look, this is how you do makeup. In 5 minutes, you watch a video and you get the instructions straight away. Video is hugely important in social networks. The amount of people that visit Facebook is far overtaking Google, so there's lots and lots of video on there that will be watched when people start to type searches into it as well. Search engine marketers, and certainly myself, are very concerned that people aren't going to use Google as much as they are going to use Facebook to find the things that we want to peddle. So we're actively getting people engaged in video. Now, video is really important in engaging people, because it's the most direct way to do certain things that we all try and do. Entertain people, to let them know that we have an affinity with them and we talk their language, to demonstrate complicated concepts in, I don't know, an information graphic. to get somebody who we really already know, such as a famous person, such as Lisa Snowden, saying, look, I do this, you should probably get involved. Video is a way of sharing content really easily as well. Once you make a video, you may find that it has that viral effect where people say, hey, you know, I really like this idea of, I don't know, what did I see yesterday? I saw a child in a watermelon eating it from the inside, which was rather amusing. And there's cats getting put in bins. I mean, you know, these kind of things go viral. Viral marketing campaigns are very, very well planned. So the video has to be creative. Do you have to get one of these guys with a giant camera and a television attached to their head? Sorry. Not necessarily. You can make some really engaging video on a little flip camcorder that costs you £99. The important thing is to have the ideas, to really get everyone in your organisation, your marketing team, involved in what the ideas are, to tell stories, because that's what you're using video for. You're telling stories, you're helping people solve problems. You're addressing the desires and needs and all of the usual stuff that donors have. One thing that charities really need to tell people more about is the success stories. Videos are a fantastic way of doing kind of success stories. Now, success stories, when they're just about here's such and such kid who has benefited from your philanthropic donations, they're good, but there's different ways to tell these success stories. It may be that you go and videotape an event that you hold. Well, I just said videotape, how did I say? You make a video of an event, like a charity ball that you hold, and you make sure that you have a video person doing the reception, like, you know, the red carpet you might make. So I think the video is of utmost importance. I think that technically what's happening is search engines, and YouTube is one of the biggest search engines. Search engines are advancing so that you can search optimize your video, so that you can actually code a video, so people will be able to type in, how do I add a shirt, and start to find your video. So they're going to be important in the future for just answering questions that people ask as well. Okay? Also, sorry, the other thing is I talked about making people, back when I was using my Alan Partridge phrase about switching from YouTube to, or the tube to YouTube, making people start, that's actually quite important. What you can do is get loads and loads, hours and hours of free video from people on YouTube. You just have to know how to engage with it properly. Right, well, that's video talked about. Anybody else got anything? Great, okay, well I think we're going to wrap up. I'm going to hand over to you.